Hello and welcome to all of you. Thank you for taking the time out today and joining us. And I would now request Andrea Wasmer, UNFPA representative in India and country director of UNFPA, for her opening remarks.
So while significant headway has been made towards these rights and choices and autonomy of women and girls in India and across the world, much more needs to be done just to maintain where we are.
The global influence that UNFPA has had on the discourse and continues to have is something that we are very proud to be associated with.
Do make the choices, that we respect their choices, that we understand that violence and force are likely to pervade their lives. How do we support that?
I think the other great story of India's population dynamics is the great transition that's happening. And I think colleagues referred to it. India is in the middle of this transition, which is a historical shift from high birth and high death rates to a substantial change in the age of the population distribution. And also emerging is this big divide, demographic divide in India, where many large states, especially in the south, have reached replacement level of fertility long back. 10 years, 15 years, Kerala in 1987. And they are sort of going towards an aging society.
It also highlighted the fact that India will surpass China as the most populous country by 2023. And the sub-Saharan Africa is expected to contribute to more than 50% of the population growth. And among the countries, 8 countries where the population is going to be concentrated, there are India, Pakistan, the Philippines, Egypt, Congo, Ethiopia, Nigeria, and Tanzania. However, by the time this news got covered in India, the headlines were completely changed.
We need to make sure that our stories are not one-dimensional. Unfortunately, as Andrea mentioned, it is a world of misinformation today. It is also a world where there is a compelling need to cater to the popular narrative, the popular public opinion. So there is an increased focus on all of us collectively to make sure that, especially when we are reporting on issues of gender, particularly gender-based violence, harmful practices, that we are always making a conscious attempt to understand, unpack the whole range of complex drivers that drive the practice of gender-based violence, harmful practices. These operate at an individual level, at a family level, community level, at the level of systems, and the larger level of the legal and policy ecosystem.
There are so many forms where formats and forms and platforms where people are getting their information. So we have to make sure we put out this information on all of these platforms that are reaching out, let's say, to younger people. So the challenge is we face a challenge to make your news more interesting. I think it's more of a challenge than politics. For example, if you're covering health, if you're covering the pandemic, it is harder because there's a lot of fact, there's like research required, and how do you simplify things without dumbing it down? And highlighting important stories that aren't pretty to look at, like the kinds of stories that Shrutapa has covered, the lack of toilets, what does that mean for women? What does that mean for safety? What does that mean for sexual health? It's not pretty to look at.
I remember in the beginning of the HIV whole thing, we would be taken to places, a whole team of journalists, and we would come back with stories on HIV. So maybe something like that could be done even on a lot of issues that we want covered now.
As opposed to a serious news of rape and gender-based violence. Both English and Hindi media, we use words like shikar, ki wo balatkar ka shikar hui, which is, women are not animals. This is not a game. This is not a hunting game where we can say words like this. So, हम rape के cases और gender-based violence के cases को इस तरीके से sensationalize करते हैं. And that also leads to TRPs and traffic, because that is what people want. अगर उसको थोड़ा spicy, मसालेदार tone दे दिया जाएगा, so it will, reach more traffic. And I think all of us have been following the Shraddha Walker case recently in Delhi, and the kind of reporting that has come out, it's disappointing to say the least.
I think I said earlier, it's a race against time. right? No government in the world can fully equip its population with good health, good education, and job creation if the population growth is outpacing the ability of the government to provide those things. So with that, thank you again, and I hope that with this we're one step closer to win-win for the media and for UNFPA, but most importantly, for the development of India. So thanks again.